Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to undergroundwellness.com. As you may know, over the last 4, 5, 6 months, I've become incredibly fascinated with the human brain. It's like a hobby of mine now. And the reason why is because the brain is responsible for everything. It just literally runs the show. And when we're trying to get healthier, it's really about behaviors. And our behaviors are very much dictated by what's going on between our ears. And so last week, I had the good fortune of interviewing Dr. Daniel Amen, who's the author of the Amen Solution, as well as Change Your Brain, Change Your Body. It's on the Blog Talk radio station as well as on iTunes. And I love his approach because he has a very brain-focused approach. And what he does is he uses something called SPECT scans, which take an image of the brain and can show how well or how not well it's functioning. So we can see if the brain is good, and it can also see if there's parts of the brain that are overactive or parts of the brain that are underactive. And so in his book, he outlines several different types of overeaters. There's a compulsive overeater, impulsive overeater. There's a combination of the two. There's the anxious overeater. There's an emotional overeater as well. I can see a lot of you guys out there identifying with this already. Now, the one we're going to talk about today is the impulsive overeater. Let me tell you a little story about myself. Every once in a really long while, I'll be out. I'll have a few too many drinks, gotta get my 80-20 on, and I would just weirdly find myself standing in line at 7-Eleven holding on to something that I shouldn't be holding on to. And my friends would be like, dude, aren't you like the YouTube health guy? What the heck is going on? And what's going on is that I had alcohol, and what it did is it turn down the activity of my prefrontal cortex, which is the first 1/3 of our brains. Let me tell you what the prefrontal cortex is responsible for. This is from the book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Body. Good stuff right here. It helps with executive functions such as attention span, forethought, impulse control, organization, motivation, and planning. In other words, it's like the supervisor. It's the cop. It's the break in the brain that says, hey man, is this really a good idea? Should you really be doing this? Is this really in your best interest? And so when we have alcohol, we tend to do dumb things because it's kind of offline. And so a lot of people are like this in general. They're like this all of the time. They always have decreased activity in their prefrontal cortex. So these are folks who say, I have all intentions of doing what healthy people do, but I just can't help myself from having those cookies. I just can't walk by the chocolate shop and not go in and grab just a little something. And they do it all the time. And they say to themselves, I'll start my diet or I'll start getting healthier on Monday. And Monday comes, breakfast is good, lunch is good, dinner time, done, because they simply can't say no. So what's going on in the brain? Again, reduced activity of the prefrontal cortex, quite possibly. You should go to amenclinics.com and take the free brain audit and see if that's what's going on, because it may not be. But very likely there may be low dopamine levels in the brain. And so the way that Dr. Amen would recommend that you bring those dopamine levels up is through things like supplementation, maybe rhodiola, green tea, ginseng, l-tyrosine is something that we've talked about a lot on Underground Wellness Radio. Exercise, being mindful and saying, you know what, I just really need to say no right now. I can't always say yes and just do it. And so check out that show. I think a lot of people are really going to be fascinated and identify with that as well. And when you train your brain, you get the balance out your brain, that's when everything just tends to fall in place for a lot of people. I'll give you just a real quick story from the book. Dr. Amen was working with a woman who had been to alcohol rehabilitation several times, and she continued to relapse. And what had happened was, when she was a young girl, she actually got kicked in the head by a horse. And when they did her SPECT scan, they showed a significant reduction in activity in her prefrontal cortex. If she never balanced out the brain, then she would have never gotten healthy and got off the alcohol. So it may be the same for you in terms of the foods that you're consuming and the lack of impulse control. A couple more things that can cause reduce brain activity in the PFC. Again, head trauma, infections. You can inherit it as well. And so definitely something you guys might want to keep in mind. We'll talk more about this stuff in the next few days. Be sure to go over to paleosummit.com. Get registered for the Paleo Summit. Chris Kresser is on UW Radio tonight with an Ask Chris Kresser show. It's going to be awesome. And make sure you guys check out my ebook, The Dark Side of Fat Loss. Get the first chapter free at darksidepreview.com or buy the whole thing at darksideoffatloss.com. I'm out of here and I did it in less than 5 minutes. Peace.